This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions. CharlesEquipment.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We've mentioned a couple of pieces written by Eva Moskowitz over the last week, 10 days, because they've been so on point, talking about K through 12 education and local politics, too, particularly in big blue city America. But we haven't mentioned her new book, which is why we wanted to have her on the show to talk a little bit about that as well. Eva Moskowitz is the founder and CEO of Success Academy Charter School, former New York City Council member. That must have been fun. And author of the recently released A-Plus Parenting, the surprisingly fun guide to raising surprisingly smart kids. Eva Moskowitz, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get to the book, the piece you wrote about the business community being AWOL in local politics, and this has been written about before. This is where, for example, George Soros intercedes and says, well, I get the biggest bang for my political dollar by supporting, say, for example, state's attorneys in races for state or district attorney, where they don't have the expense of a governor's race or a federal race or certainly a presidential race. And so I can have maximum impact with my available resources. But also in the context even of school choice programs and policy debates. We see that in Chicago. In fact, I've been lamenting that for, decades now, that there's a lot of discussion in these clubs, the Economic Club of Chicago and our Civic Federation, where the C-suite types get together and they talk about how the city should be versus what it is. But those conversations usually end in those boardrooms because they don't want to get into the messy business of politics. They don't want to offend anybody. They don't want to take risks, even if they're otherwise basically untouchable because of their wealth. It's very frustrating. And so I wonder if you've gotten any feedback from your piece challenging those people, they know who they are, to be more active as we see big cities like New York and Chicago, San Francisco, beset by all kinds of societal ills, in part from terrible public policy choices.
Yeah, look, national politics is also important. I think, though, that there are an increasing number of areas in public policy that are actually diminishing free enterprise in particular, and that if that's a value that our business community and citizens hold dear, they're going to have to fight for it. It's not just going to be preserved because of our founding fathers or Alexander Hamilton. It's going to require that we get into the mosh pit and fight.
We design the behavior is inappropriate, unacceptable.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your answer.
Oh, just that it's important, and obviously education is almost exclusively local and state, and so and that represents a very sizable portion of local government's budget, and yet there is a kind of missing in action component of the business community, and I think that's unfortunate.
Let me be generous to the business community for a second, which is sort of against my nature in terms of their participation in politics. Part of it, somebody might say, is, look, I want to protect free enterprise, as Eva Moskowitz wrote about. I want the next generation of kids to respect our free enterprise system, to get involved, to get jobs early, to work their way up the corporate ladder or start a business and be successful like I was. I want all that. I just don't know where to intersect. Should I fight? Which policy should I fight over? Where should I put my resources? And even before you get to on who should I put my resources? So, I mean, are there any like foundational issues or an example of a foundational issue where you say, this should be an all hands on deck issue?
Well, I pointed out a couple of examples in the op-ed that when employment at will is being contested by sort of, extreme sort of left-wing politicians, that would just be really, really unfortunate. And I would think the business community would be protective of its freedom to hire the most qualified and let go if the person is not performing at the level that they need to. I don't think you want local government tying, and it's not just the business community, it's the not-for-profit community. I mean, we need to hire and let go on the merits, even more so because we're serving a vulnerable population.
On the matter of K through 12 education, since you've had such success with the Success Academy, we just got our report card for the state of Illinois last week from the Illinois State Board of Education. 1.85 million kids in the system. Round numbers, about a third read at grade level and about 1/4 do math at grade level. And as you might expect, the numbers just in the city of Chicago are significantly worse. And the numbers for minority students, which make up a supermajority of the students in CPS, are even worse than that. So your reaction, because in Chicago we spend $30,000 per kid. It's statewide we spend $24,000 per kid, and we continue to tell what we've been told for 50 years, that we just need more money.
Yeah, and I would just say that being on grade level in a globally competitive economy is insufficient. These tests that data is based on are incredibly easy. And so that is a floor. That is not the goal. Any parent, I'm the mother of three, I always wanted my kids to be above grade level, as most parents do, because they recognize that in a globally competitive economy, your kids are not going to do very well. So that data that you cited is shocking, although not surprising, if that's not an oxymoron. Shocking, it shocks the sensibility because we're spending so much, and this story is repeated all over America. We spend more than any country around the globe, and somewhere between 2/3 and 1/3 of our children are failing miserably. And that's an adult problem, and that's a political problem. We know how to teach kids to read. We know how to teach kids to count. We know how to teach kids to think scientifically and mathematically. And yet schools, so many schools in America, are really warehousing children. They're handing out worksheets, collecting worksheets, not giving kids any feedback. And, we need the citizens of this great country of ours to demand better.
Yeah.
And that's going to require innovation. If we keep on doing what we've been doing for the last 30, 40 years, we should not be surprised that we have such poor results. We're spending more money and doing a poorer job.
Yeah, here in Chicago, it's $30K per pupil, which is, I don't know what they're getting from that. So how can parents, become A-plus parents? What can they do to get involved to help improve these horrific reading and math scores?
Well, I wrote the book for a couple of reasons, but the primary one is really that there's a lot of advice for parents on, toileting and the social and emotional growth of your children, all of which are practical and important, but there wasn't a book on raising intellectually vibrant children. And I wouldn't assume as a parent that the schools got it, and you as a parent don't have to worry about it, A, because the school may not have it, as the data you cited suggested, but actually kids spend still much more time at home than they do in school. And you, as a parent, want to make sure that your kids become self-driven learners, if you will. And so there are a lot of easy, not particularly time-consuming things you can do with your kids, which, by the way, are also enjoyable for parents. This is a how-to book. It's not meant for coverage. You don't have to do every activity in the book. Pick those that you find interesting. So there are game recommendations. There are movie recommendations. There are, lyrics that are particularly intellectually stimulating. There are great poems that you can read to your kids, great short stories, and the book is just meant to be super practical, super helpful for parents.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the incorporation of different mediums too, particularly movies. I mean, I'm not saying that people shouldn't read, but there is, amid all of the dreck, there is a lot of great art that's created, and it's just another way that kids and young people can take in information and process and think about it, and maybe it's more interactive in some respects than reading is.
Absolutely. And I find the social, we in the Moskowitz-Granis household, as I mentioned, I have 3 kids. I'm an empty nester now, so my kids are off to college. But we still have family movie night. And not only are there an incredible number of great films, but then you end up puzzling over them. One kid liked it, another kid didn't. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What do you think the meaning was? It actually makes the post-movie dinner time conversation quite lively because you've had this shared experience.
So what are some of the movies you've watched? Just curious.
Well, everything from, I'm a big Humphrey Bogart fan, so Casablanca to The African Queen, all of the Hitchcock films. We just, love sort of the old black and white movies. But even more contemporary movies. My kids loved The In-Laws, It's a Beautiful Life. We watch foreign films. Every Sunday we watched a movie.
So steering clear of like the Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Lopez oeuvres, probably a good idea. Something else though too. I mean, just with respect to your experience in education, I just wanted you to get to this because I know this is important. The utility of chess.
I mean, I'm just such a believer in the game. I started playing with my eldest son when he was 3 or 4, and at our schools we have 11,000 kids playing chess. And what I love about chess is that it is a thinking person's game where language is off the table because the game is played silently. And the better players, when we compete, our kids compete and tend to decimate other teams around the country. They're playing, each player gets 2 hours on the clock. And the slower players are the better players. So in addition to just, over-indexing or doubly indexing on thinking, chess gets kids to have a level of focus and concentration that helps them in their academic life and in all other aspects of their life. And with chess, there is something called notation. So if you and I are playing chess, I'm writing down your moves and my moves in response, and then I can debrief the entire game. When you did this, could I have made a better move? When I made this move, could you have made a stronger move? So built into the game with notation is a constant debriefing of the game, which increases the learning density tremendously.
Eva Moskowitz is the founder and CEO of Success Academy Charter Schools in New York City, a former New York City Council member. Her new book, A Plus Parenting, the surprisingly fun guide to raising surprisingly smart kids. Eva Moskowitz, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on all your success for those kids in your schools, and best of luck with the book.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
It's hard to believe, but 2024 will be here soon. Before you get caught up in all the busy holiday season shopping and whatnot, ask yourself, what are you doing now to put your retirement in a better position for the future? Sean Thompson here for my friend Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group. Tom has prepared a 2023 year-end planning report. This report will show you ways to reduce your tax burden on your retirement savings, income strategies that don't depend on a volatile market, and ideas on how to protect and pass down assets to your loved ones. Tom has been helping build financial plans for retirements for over 2 decades, and he's sharing his knowledge and experience in this report. Call Tom today